Well, the Brisbane Lions have defeated the Essendon VFL side 18-11-119 to 15-9-99. There's a little bit to talk about in this game. The backline was a little bit undermanned, as you would expect, especially given that the senior team's backline is undermanned. You can only guess how much the VFL team backline was, but we're going to discuss everything about the match and the performance of the VFL listed players, including some of the new ones, Liam Mcmah, and also Hussien El Achkar, not a listed player yet, but the Essendon NGA prospect, in this video right now. If you like this content, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps the YouTube algorithm when you do so. It will ensure you never miss a video. It only takes 1 second to do so, and it doesn't cost any money whatsoever. So if you could do that, I'd really appreciate it. So this game, played in Brisbane at midday on Friday, was played in a bit of a drizzle, to be honest, but it was actually played to a pretty high standard. It was actually a pretty good game of football. The Bombers got off to a flyer, kicking a number of goals early in the first quarter. But what you guys really want to know is, how did the AFL listed players go? Because that's what we really want to know, especially given the injury crisis that we're in at the moment. So there were a couple of things to report, especially given that Kale Gerine, who is a forward for Essendon, picked as a forward most weeks. He's kicked every week. He's kicked 12 goals, 7 this year, and has basically, I think, been improving as the season goes on. Played pretty much the entire game in the back line. So he's about 200 centimetres. He's a kind of forward ruckman. Think of someone like Peter Wright. His build is a bit different to Peter Wright. He's a bit more broad-shouldered. Peter Wright's a bit skinnier, but in the sense that he's really a forward that can ruck a little bit, but more of a forward. So he was playing in the back line. So I can only think this is kind of an experiment to see if he can adapt to maybe the senior team if they need him, just because we're short of tall players. I can't think of any other reason why they would be playing him in the back line. And he did okay down there. Look, I didn't really notice him make any major errors or anything. He had 13 disposals, 5 marks, a tackle, but he also had 5 intercept possessions, which I think is kind of the most important stat for backmen these days, because turnovers generate the most scores in the AFL. So it'll be interesting to see what his role is in the VFL going forward, and whether they're going to persist with him down back, and whether they are actually considering him for a debut as a backman. I don't think they will do that. I think this is more just a bit of an experiment to see how he goes, and they'll do it for a couple of weeks and they might make a call on him. But I just thought it was interesting that he is, been playing forward all year, and here he was playing in defence, and I thought that was very noteworthy. So our best player was Dylan Schill was our best player. He's really above VFL standard. Obviously, that is not really a surprise. He had 29 disposals, which included 21 handballs. Most of those were, I think, effective handballs, though. Out of the pack. He had 21 contested possessions, 12 clearances. A lot of these are handballs out of a clearance situation. 3 marks, 2 tackles, and he had 8 score involvements, which was the second most amount of score involvements on the ground. So Dylan Schill, obviously, I think he is still very much part of the team for this year. Just with his age profile, oldest player on the list, apart from Goldstein, of course. I don't quite know where he fits in. He seems to be in and out of the team, but obviously his talent level is very much still of AFL standard. Vigo Visentini, we're all watching this guy very, very closely because of the ruck situation that we're in. He had an incredible 58 hitouts. Now, you can't just judge everything by hitouts, of course, but that is a huge number of hitouts, and he is really accelerating his development in there. And he's putting up good numbers: 16 disposals, 2 marks, 5 tackles, 3 clearances. He also had 4 score involvements and 5 contested possessions, but 58 hitouts. That's an enormous amount of hitouts, and he just played the entire game there in the ruck. Darcy Parish played his second consecutive game in the twos. I think he'll be back in the seniors next week, especially with a 10-day break. He was serviceable without being spectacular. He had 19 disposals, 1 mark, 6 tackles, 3 clearances, 4 score involvements, and 6 contested possessions. So while he wasn't racking up the ball, he was efficient with his use of the ball. I like those score involvements. That's really what you are looking for there. I would anticipate 2 games in the reserves. They will put him back in the senior team next week. The funny thing is, I'm not certain about that, but I suspect that's what's going to happen. the midfield, our midfield is pretty good at the moment. We're not really short of players there. So you can argue, well, we don't who comes out of the side. I just think he forces his way in somehow just because he's obviously an AFL quality player. Probably Hobbs comes out, I would anticipate, going forward. I think Hobbs was pretty average on Thursday night, but that's just my view. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Parish had a serviceable game. I think he will be back in the senior team next week, in my opinion. Reece Unwin, neat little left footer, he had his most productive game on the goal scoring front, kicked 2 goals, which he's never done before at VFL level. Had 14 possessions, 1 mark, 3 tackles, and had 7 contested possessions. I don't think a debut is coming soon for him. He might have to wait until next year. I think there's a few too many players ahead of him, especially considering we don't really have any vacancies in the midfield, and there are other players like Parish who will obviously get in before him. But nevertheless, that was a pretty good game for him. Those 2 goals look good next to his name. Jai Mensy may struggle to get back into the team at this point. He kicked a goal, had 17 possessions, 1 mark, 4 tackles, 1 clearance. He had 4 score involvements and 8 contested possessions. So he had a pretty good game down there. And look, he's probably on that borderline to being selected. But, I just think it's going to be hard for... Now that he's out of the side and we've selected so many, rookies, first gamers, like, your Zach Johnsons and Archer Day Wicks and these sort of players who I would hope would probably get the priority in terms of selection. Angus Clark, of course, other these players, I know they're not like for like, they don't play necessarily the same position as Mensy, but you would think some of them would probably get priority over Mensy now in terms of selection, but nevertheless, it was not a bad game from Mensy. Lurman Lu, I don't think he'll be getting a game this year, and I think his spot on the list will probably be in jeopardy. But anyway, he had 13 possessions, 6 marks, 2 tackles, 2 score involvements, and 3 contested possessions. Reece Unwin kicked a nice little kick to him, which allowed him to get a goal at 1 point. I thought that was good. He played a serviceable game without being spectacular. Alwyn Davey Jr. hit the scoreboard, kicked 1 goal, 1. He had 14 disposals, a mark, 6 tackles, 2 clearances, 2 score involvements, and 4 contested possessions. Just with his slight frame down there, once again, he's out of contract as well this year. It's going to be hard for him to remain on the list, especially given that we now have 47 players effectively on the list, if you include the inactive list with the 4 long-term injuries, that we have to whittle down to something like 38. Don't quote me on 38, but something like that in preparation for the November draft, rather than whittling 43 players down to 38 or so, which is what we would have to do if we didn't have those mid-season draft picks. So that means there's more competition now for those last 38 spots or so, which is going to make it very, very difficult for a player like Davey, who's out of contract, to remain on the list. If he had a 50-50 chance of remaining on the list, it's probably now more like 20%, I think, just given the extra competition for spots that's available. He didn't have a bad game, though. 14 possessions, hit the scoreboard. He is the kind of player that does need to hit the scoreboard. Liam Mcmah. Everyone was looking at this player, and he's a player at VFL level for Carlton that just knows how to hit the scoreboard. He played a little bit in defence in the first quarter, I believe, from what I could tell from the live stream on the AFL app, and then was moved to full forward, where he the forward line where he played the rest of the game. He had 4 shots at goal for 2 goals, 2. He normally kicks every game in the VFL. He kicked 3 or 4 goals. There was one game he kicked 2 goals. Every other game he's kicked 3 or 4 goals. He probably should have kicked 4 goals. The 2 goals he missed were set shots from, 30, 40 metres out. They weren't particularly difficult shots. So he could have easily finished with 4 goals straight. Just looking at him, I just had my first close look at him today because I haven't seen much of him. He's a beautiful kick. He's a beautiful long kick with a very, very nice action. And he had the 10 disposals, 6 marks, 2 goals, 2. And I think there's a reasonable chance he could be playing. Whether they've got a spot for him in defence, I don't know. I know he's played in defence before, but he's obviously a lot more as a forward. I would rather him as a forward. It's just a matter of whether he can fit into the forward line at some point. Oscar Smart playing his first game for Essendon since becoming a listed player. He was a VFL listed player before, but now he is an AFL listed player. He had 10 possessions, 1 mark, 4 tackles, a clearance, and he kicked 0 goals. He did give a goal off at one point as a goal assist. So whether he gets into the team, I think, is probably 50-50. Obviously, you can't put everyone in the team, but just the fact that he's on the list, he will be ecstatic about that. Now, the other player that we're interested about is a player who's not an AFL listed player, but may very well be next year. He's part of the Essendon NGA Academy group, and he and Adam Swade are the 2 players everyone's been talking about, and I've made a couple of videos about both of them. Adam Swade looks to be probably the higher draft pick at this point, but Hussien El Achkar, who played his first game today in the VFL after playing in the Calder Cannons, only had the 4 disposals, but he kicked 3 goals. He was our leading goal kicker, and he is a goal kicker. That is what he is in the side for. He's a very small player, knows where to find the goals, is a pretty good kick at goal, and just the fact that he hit the scoreboard for 3 goals was really exciting for this young 18-year-old. So Hussien El Achkar, some people are saying he's a second-round pick. Both he and Swade's, draft prospects seem to be getting better and better. Swade may even be a first-rounder at this point from what people are saying. I don't know if El Achkar will be first-rounder. We may have to use our second-round pick on him. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, I'm not a recruiter, but everyone is saying that his draft prospects are going up. So the fact that he would be our leading goal kicker in his first game of VFL football is a good sign, despite the fact he only had the 4 disposals. So that is the VFL report for Friday afternoon. The game is completed. Did any of you guys watch the game? What do you think? Is there anything I missed? It's a bit hard to pick up everything you can from the live stream, but I thought it was interesting that Kale Gerine was playing in defence. Like I said, I personally don't think he will be playing in the senior team. I don't think he's ready, but I just think, obviously, the fact that they played him down there obviously was with the plan to at least see how he goes. If they do need to select a taller player to play down there in defence, I thought that was, a very noteworthy part of watching the game. So I'm going to leave it at that. Have a great day, everybody. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment if you can, and as always, go Bombers.